I need you to survive. Now come on, say it again. Lord, I need you to survive. Amen. Most of us are basement believers when it comes to bearing burdens. Why is it that when it comes to miracles, that trying Jesus is always the last option? Here's a woman for 12 years. She's been going in the opposite direction of her healing and her deliverance. But this one day when it's as bad as it can get, when all of her options and opportunities have run out, she finally figures that if I'm going to live, I better get to Jesus. I thought I would tell you, because none of us really know what we're going to embrace the rest of this year, but there ought to be one statement that you declaratively say, is that whatever I'm facing, I need the Lord to survive. Why don't you tell your neighbor, I need him to survive? Tell him again, I need him to survive. This woman is a living dead person. She's a walking zombie, but in her final stages, she exemplifies fingertip faith. She says, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I believe that something miraculous will happen in my life today. We must understand, brothers and sisters, when we look at faith in Hebrews chapter 11, that first word gives us really a clear understanding of what faith really is. It's now, N-O-W, turn it around, one, W-O-N. That's what faith is. When you really have true faith in God, it is more than what you say with your lips, but it is a lifestyle. I believe God, but not only do I believe, but I got to have behavior that's equal to my belief. That even when things are not going the way I want them to go, even though it seems that things are not getting better, that does not shake my faith in God, because faith is nothing but confident trust. Tell your neighbor, faith is confident trust. Tell them again, tell them, neighbor, faith is confident trust. Now, when you really have faith in God, it derives its value not from the one who expresses it, but from the object in which it rests. If you believe God is able, then watch this. The more you know about him before you go through, it helps you while you're trying to endure the process. You see, you need to know that he's a healer before you get sick. You need to know he's a deliverer before you get bound. You need to know that he will help you not just pay your bills from month to month. That's really short faith. But when I'm believing God is not to help me meet my mortgage, I want him to help me pay my mortgage off so I can be a blessing to the ministry and get somebody else free. Yeah, when you understand who God is, most of us have limited knowledge of who he is, so sometimes he will let us go through some trials and some tribulations because it is nothing but a teaching session. You remember in Mark chapter 4, what they didn't get on the shore, he taught them on the sea. And every now and then, if you miss the teaching on the shore, he'll put you on the sea of life, because he's not trying to tell you. He's trying to give you a living example. And I come to tell you that when I was in the 11th grade, I walked by the chemistry room and I watched the teachers. I said, wow, anybody that can use a calculator in the class got to pass with an A. But what I didn't know is that in order to pass the class, I had to learn some formulas. Are y'all here with me? And in learning that, it was always at teaching time that I would cut up. And Miss Ford would say, Mr. Veal, I'm going to ask you one time to stop clowning in class and pay attention. But what I didn't know is that exam day was coming. And when she gave us the exam, that's when my hand went up. I said, Miss Ford, I have a question for you. She says, Mr. Veal, put your hand down, pick up your pencil, and finish your exam. I said, but Miss Ford, I have a question. She said, Mr. Veal, put your hand down, pick up the pencil, and finish the exam. My hand went back up, and she said, Mr. Veal, what I need you to do is put your hand down, pick up your pencil, and finish the exam. It kept going back and forth until the bell rang. And so I said, Miss Ford, I got an attitude and I'm going to tell my mother. She said, bring her up here because I would like her to know how you've been cutting up in class. But I said, Miss Ford, you are the teacher and I am the student. She said, you're right about that. I said, but I had a question and you wouldn't answer me. She said, you're right about that. She says, Mr. Veal, at teaching time, I answer your questions. But at testing time, you answer my question. And somebody here, it looked like God has been silent in your circumstance because he said, the reason I'm silent is because I told you at teaching time I was going to bring you out. I told you at teaching time you were going to be back on your feet. I told you at teaching time that this too shall pass. I told you at teaching time that I'm going to heal your body. I'm going to put money in your pocket. I'm going to give you a job. So at testing time, I don't answer you, but you answer me. Look at somebody and say, neighbor, you got to know the time. That was the wrong neighbor. Look at somebody else on the other side and say, neighbor, you got to know what time you're in. That if God seems silent in your circumstance, it's because he's testing you right now. And he's saying at teaching time is when your hand should have went up. But now at testing time, take the exam. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, take the exam. Tell him again. Tell him, neighbor, take the exam. Tell him like you mean it. Tell him like you're telling them all. Tell him, neighbor, take the exam. You got to finish your exam. And can I tell you, as I embrace the outline of the night, this woman is a clear picture of those who are stuck. Because she shows us tonight, as I transition to the outline, if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. If what you're trying is not working, then you need to try something else. And in our case, as being believers and saints, we need to try someone else. Everybody has let us down, but here is a Christ that's standing to be Christ of our crisis. Here's this woman saying, listen, I was dying standing up, 12 years, liquid life leaving my body. Here I am, I'm all out of options. Here it is. Number one, she has progressive obstacles. The text says she was nothing better, but rather grew worse. Why? Because number one, she has to go through a period of therapeutic trials. She tried this. Everybody was telling her, try this, try that, try this, try that. Have you ever been there to what people said for you to do, it just didn't work for you? And every now and then, they will give you advice. It's good advice, but it's not your advice. Because you've got to know that every door is not your open door. You've got to understand that what worked for somebody else may not work for you. Because number one, they're not on the same level as you're on. They don't have the same belief system that you have. So every now and then, what people tell you just won't work. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I appreciate your advice, but I better hear the Spirit. Because he will tell me to go right, but your advice will say go left. And you will mess around and miss your miracle going in directions that he didn't tell you to go. But not only do I see therapeutic trials, but then there was a taking of her treasure because she spent all she had. Have there ever been times in your life that you spent all you had trying to keep what you had left? And somebody here today, you're stressed out because you've already lost. I said this at the other church just Sunday. This woman, she's learning how to live between lost and losing. She's already lost a lot and she's getting ready to lose her life. Are you there right now? You're trying to spend all your, because you're trying to survive the moment. And God sent me here tonight to tell you that the moment that you're in right now, it is your defining moment, but you cannot blow the moment.